Hey, backcountry.church, I am at Great Basin National Park, probably the least visited national park in the continental USA. And behind me is Wheeler Peak. That's actually not Wheeler Peak, it's behind that, standing over 13,000 feet. I'm at Stella Lake and just past Teresa Lake, both over 10,000 feet. We're about to hop into our incredible series, Witness, and I hope you're enjoying it. Grab the notes at our website, grab the notes in the app. Please share this. Let people know what's going on at backcountry.church. And if you'd like to give, please do so. And you can do that at our website or at our app. Now, we are going to start this episode. And of course, as always, I'm going to show you around Great Basin National Park right after this episode. All right? Isn't this beautiful? And the sun just set. There was a deer over here, and there's hardly anybody here. Anyways, let's start this episode in 3, 2, 1. Let's do this. Hey, backcountry.church, it's not too often that I'm able to do a message, an episode at the peak of a hike, but the conditions, at least for the moment, are perfect. So Ducky Jones and I are going to hop into the message, let you know that I'm in a shelter at the very top of Wheeler Peak in Great Basin National Park. This is a little over 13,000 feet. You start at about 10,400 or something like that. And it's a no joke hike up and down. Trail is well marked. This is one of the least visited national parks and one of the least visited shelters. And if I doze off to sleep, it's because I'm really tired hiking that. So let's jump into Witness. This is the next episode here. And let me just give you the main idea right off the top, what we're going to be talking about. John's account, the book of John. John is one of the disciples who was Jesus' best friend, but he was one of the 12. And his account is a simple invitation to believe and trust, and to believe and to trust. Now, it's interesting. You know what cairns are? As you're coming up, coming up the last probably 3/4 of a mile, you're going up about 1,000 feet. It's all this. And so there's no trail per se, although on this one there is, once you find the cairns. But the cairns are hard to find sometime. And I think what John did, the cairns, the little piles of rocks that say, hey, if you go there and then you see another cairn and then you see another cairn. I think what John did are these signs that he did that outline the book of his gospel, the book of John. These signs are actually cairns. And it was interesting coming up because I got lost. I put my poles away. I was scrambling up, and then I saw a cairn, so I walked over, and lo and behold, it's a better trail than just scrambling on these massive boulders. Saved a lot of energy as well, going over to the cairn. These signs that John does are cairns. Walk over to them, watch them, listen to them, understand them, read them, digest it, ask questions about them. And John's account is all simply an invitation for you and I to believe and to trust, to walk with God. So the quick quiz, regarding the resurrection of Jesus. Who is Jesus? You see that the resurrection pointed those in the first century toward Jesus because everyone believed it. The Romans tried to hide it. Pharisees tried to deny it. But Jesus rose and he appeared to people afterwards. And his disciples and others wrote accounts of this. You see, we don't believe Jesus rose from the dead because the Bible tells us so. We believe because Matthew, Mark, Luke, Peter, James, the half-brother of Jesus, Paul, they all documented it in the first century. And that document is called the Bible. We don't believe because the Bible tells us so. We believe it because these people documented it. They were eyewitnesses, and hence the name of this series. See, the story of Jesus wasn't worth telling apart from the resurrection. And the folks closest to the action were honestly honest. They expected Jesus to do what dead people do. Nobody expected no body. I mean, it was a shock that the body wasn't there and that they saw Jesus later on. John was an eyewitness, a witness to the crucifixion and to the resurrection, and wrote in detail the account. See, he expected a king. And after Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, there was great momentum. Many believed him in that day. Many believed him. In fact, too many believed him. Jesus' enemies plotted to arrest him while he was in Jerusalem for the Passover, and spies expected fans, and they filled Jerusalem. Jesus arrives to the crowds and chanting his name. They were so tired of Rome, and they thought Jesus was going to be the king to rescue them. And days later, Jesus celebrates the Passover meal with his 12 apostles. He announces the inauguration of a new covenant and a new command. It was all brand new. It wasn't a holdover. Let's rinse and repeat. It wasn't Old Testament number 2. No, the Old Testament had served its purpose, and it landed. The plane had landed, and now this is something brand new. It's a new command. It was to be the brand. It was to be the trademark. It was of this movement. And the apostles thought Jesus was about to declare himself as king, but he was betrayed and arrested. High priest that Jesus went before, and then there was Pilate, and he was flogged. So the soldiers took charge of Jesus, carrying his own cross, and he went out to the place of the skull. And there they crucified him, with him 2 others, one on each side, and Jesus in the middle. And John records the words from the cross. And John was there. He was standing next to Mary, crying out loud. Jesus tells John to take care of his mom. And John, who's writing this, right? He's the witness that we've been talking about. John then heard Jesus utter his last words. It is finished, tetelestai. It is finished, with the result that it could never be undone. The price was paid. The option for forgiveness is now complete. He bowed his head and he gave up his spirit. Then John pauses and reflects and made an unusual statement. He made it for future generations, for us and for them back at that time. And he made it for you. Well, the man who saw it gave testimony, and his testimony is true. And he knows that he tells the truth, and he testifies to that. He's talking about himself. John said, the man himself, John, who saw it has given testimony, and his testimony is true. He knows that he tells the truth. He testifies to it, and he reaches out through the ages, and he puts his hand on our shoulders, and he looks into his eyes and says, so that you will believe that Jesus Christ died, and he rose again from the dead. Well, John, so far so good. Roman crucified another wannabe king. We believe you. John would respond, no, not that part. It's what happened next that you'll have a hard time believing. We don't know what John and Peter did that night on Saturday, after the crucifixion. And after the burial, it's the next day, on that Saturday. John tells us that early Sunday morning they were awakened by the sound of the banging at the door. It was Mary, and she was panicked and sobbing. And she says to Peter and John, they have taken the Lord out of the tomb. Can you believe this? We don't know where they put his body, where they put him. And she tells them somebody has taken the body, and they assume that there's grave robbers. I mean, after all, the Roman guard had a seal on it, and there was a standing guard there, and had the guards left, they would have been put to death by Rome. But other than that, so Peter and the other disciple, John, started for the tomb. Both were running, but the other disciple, John, outrun Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent over and looked at all the strips of linen lying there, but he did not go in. And why didn't go in? Because it's a tomb. It's dark. And he records this with such honesty. He is no hero. And Simon Peter came along behind him, and he went straight into the tomb. Why did Peter go in the tomb? Because Peter does what Peter wants to do. And he saw the strips of linen lying there, as well as the cloth that had been wrapped around Jesus' head. And the cloth was still lying in its place, separate from the linen. Boys and girls, this is why you should clean your room. Jesus, when he rose from the dead, cleaned his room. Thieves wouldn't have taken the time to unwrap the body, by the way. And John finally musters up the courage to step inside. Finally, the disciple who had reached the tomb first went inside. And here, the formula that John left us, and that millions of people, millions of people, all around the world, he saw and he believed. He saw the evidence. And at that moment, he believed that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. This would change the world. The resurrection reframed life. It reframed everything. Everything Jesus had taught was true. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages has stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. John and the others saw Jesus several times after that, as you know. Now, Thomas, one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came into that room, if you remember. So the other disciples said, we've seen the Lord. And he said, unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger from the nails where they are, and they put my hand into his side, I'm not going to believe. And why would you blame him? A week later, his disciples were in the house, and Thomas was with them. The doors were locked, and Jesus came and stood among them and said, peace be with you. I always crack up at that. Then he said to Thomas, put your finger here, see my hands, reach out your hand and put it in my side. Do not be unbelieving, but believe. And Thomas said, my Lord and my God. And Jesus told him, because you have seen me, you have believed. Jesus said, I get it. Don't let them give you a nickname like Doubting Thomas, because none of them believed. Are you ready for this? See, Jesus looks beyond the immediate context, knowing his story will be repeated for generations with you in mind. He said these words, blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. Believe and trust. Blessed are you have not seen and yet believe in Jesus. Blessed are those who have believed because of the testimony of men like John, who took the time to write this for us. He closes his account with an invitation. John's account is a simple invitation to believe and to trust. It says this, Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. See, there's invitations, there's believe and receive the gift. I hope if you have not done that, you will do that now. And simply saying to Jesus, I'm a sinner. You died on the cross for my sins, and you rose from the dead, and I believe. Please make me be one of your disciples, your family members, and teach me what it means. Teach me what it means to follow you. Maybe you've fallen away, you've stopped following Jesus. Time for you to come back and to be renewed and to recommit yourself to Jesus. And simply say to him, teach me what it means to follow you. I want to be as passionate as you were and as obedient as you were, Jesus. And I want to be passionate about your church, which is your body. If you have not been baptized, Jesus says, time to be baptized, dunked, as an adult, as somebody who makes the choice. And for some of you, maybe there's a decision to be called to ministry. Like your job full time is to be in vocational ministry. And if that's you, I want to hear from you. All these commitments that really encapsulate with that resurrection. John would say, because what happened that morning sealed and punctuated and authenticated the promise. Jesus' buried body began to breathe. Out of silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on you or me. Father, I thank you for this time. And I thank you for John and his final sign and his cairns that have led us up to this point. Father, for those right now who need to believe and need to receive the gift of eternal life, may they do that right now. I pray, God, that as they confess their sin to you and confess with their mouth that you are Lord, that you are boss, that you were raised from the dead, that they will be saved. May they become passionate followers, disciples of you. I pray this in your name. Amen. Hey, I would love for you to email me, contact us, either in our Facebook group or in the app. And it's been quite a journey on Witness. I would love for you to take the link that leads them to Witness, where people can watch all the episodes and kind of binge watch. Thanks so much. I'm going to get up. I'm going to show you where I'm at because I haven't done that yet. So hang on. Might be painful. Oh. Okay, you ready? Check this out. This is the top of Wheeler Peak. In Great Basin National Park. Okay, my friends, let me show you a little bit more of Great Basin National Park. Join us, get into backcountry.church. We have such a great time, and I honestly would love to talk with you, to text you, maybe even visit you sometime wherever you happen to be. Maybe we'll go hike a mountain together. All right, God bless. By the way, if you go to the Apple App Store or Google Play, download backcountry.church app. Join us there.